Here. And Kip Ward.
Here. And welcome back, Wes.
Thank you.
All right. Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to roll straight into, we are going to have a little change on the agenda, just a little housekeeping under J, resolutions, Resolution 2016-07, a resolution extending the property tax exemption for the Ridge Apartments. That's off the agenda because we just discussed that. Okay, we are at the consent agenda. The consent calendar consists of items of a repeat or routine nature considered under a single action. A counselor may remove a consent agenda item for separate consideration upon request. 1, the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, Momiji Express, change of name, change of director, stockholder, and adding an off-premises sale to the license. 2, Oregon Liquor Control Commission, Autobahn 101, new outlet. 3, contract Greenworks Parks Master Plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Well, that's a first. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull number 3.
I knew it was going to come. All right, we'll pull number 3.
I move to approve number 1 and number 2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items number 1 and number 2. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Do I need a roll call on that? I don't think so, do I?
So we had a motion to...
Yeah, I guess we do need to withdraw the first motion.
Need to withdraw the first motion.
Susan, if you'd withdraw
Or
the
amend
first
it.
motion for all the consent agenda items.
Okay. I remove my first motion and I restate my second.
All right, and then I think, Roger, you seconded, so you got to pull
I'll
second.
withdraw that. Chester at second to the
Just a
second.
Okay, so we good? All right. Do I need a roll call or no? All right.
Norikis,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Sprague,
Yes.
Walke,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
And Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. Councilor Norikis, number 3.
I'd like to share with the public, Mr. Mayor, a memo that we got from Ms. Nicholson.
Please.
This is regarding the Parks Master Plan. City staff requests council approval to enter into a contract with Greenworks PC to assist us in the update to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The city issued a request for proposals from park planning consultants and received 4 for the master plan update. A selection committee consisting of Gail Kimberling, Lila Bradley, Ed Drystad, Richard Townsend, and Deborah Nicholson decided to go with Greenworks. The firm is based in Portland, specializes in sustainable landscape architecture and environmental design. Staff met with Greenworks on February 11 to finalize the scope of work and fees and received the attached revised scope of work and budget on February 16th. The schedule and deadline for spending our grant funds require that we kick off the planning project by the end of this month. The city received a $40,000 planning grant from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department to assist us in updating the master plan. Congratulations, Ms. Nicholson. The city committed $27,000 of local match with $16,000 cash and the balance in staff and volunteer time. Greenworks proposes fees totaling $55,913.55. I would move that we approve the attached contract with Greenworks for the services detailed in the scope of work at the budget not to exceed $56,000.
You second it?
Who's going to claim the second?
Roger, can
All
you-
right, Roger, claiming the second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? I just have a quick question. It's one of these things just because I don't know. But I've noticed a trend when we're going to approve things like this. We always seem to be up against a deadline. Why is that?
Well, in this case, we did get the grant quite a bit earlier, and I thought maybe the staff would be able to figure out time to do it ourselves. And it became clear to me that we had enough current projects coming in to keep us otherwise occupied, and we really needed to have a consultant take the lead on it. So would have had more time if we would have started earlier, but now we're kind of up against a deadline. As you may have noticed in the schedule, it actually goes past the end of October. We ideally would have had it done by the end of October, but we will just need to ask the program that provided us with the grant to extend it, and they've assured me that that is not a problem. But
Because just from the business world, the red flags go up when someone says, I need it now. And I'm like, oh, okay, why? What is it I'm not supposed to know? And I know you're not doing that.
yeah, I don't
But
think so.
This has probably been the third one that I've seen recently that's, we've got a week to get things done, and it concerns
I
me.
guess we move fast.
Okay, all right, no harm,
Hopefully
no
not
foul.
too fast.
Mr. Mayor, on that point, though, the deadline is really to use the funds, correct?
Yes.
And looking at the schedule, one, I personally kind of like this because it forces the consultant
Oh,
to
absolutely.
get it done
Absolutely.
quickly.
Yeah.
And because a lot of these things do roll on way too long, I believe, so.
I think it'll be an exciting process because we are going to have a meeting with staff on Friday, and the consultants will spend the whole day here looking around at our parks and recreation and the city in general. And then we will be, shortly after that, probably having our first project advisory committee meeting, which, if I may, our consultants have been urging me to ask for a liaison from the city council to serve on the project advisory committee, and I'm wondering if that would be of interest to any of you. There will be 4 project advisory committee meetings, and of course, the council will be briefed in addition to that, but they felt that having a member on there might be useful.
Maxed out on committees. I don't know if
Sure.
anyone else wants to
I'm sure
step
that's
up.
true.
Anybody? All right.
Thank you, Chester.
Chester has raised his hand.
Okay.
So anyway, I didn't mean to cast any aspersions. It's just I've seen a trend, and I just wanted to question it. Is there something within the process that we might need to change, or should I just? It's no big deal. It's just the way we do things, and don't take anything more from it than.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anyway, so we are at. Any further discussion? No, good. Those 2 gentlemen are out, so I guess we're going to wait till they come back for a vote.
Do we need them? 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, we got a quorum. We don't need.
We don't need them.
It's okay. Guys, you left right at the moment we're voting. Good point.
Pretty loose.
Why? I remember when that Anderson guy was running things, That's never what happened. Decaffeinated. All right, so we are, no further discussion? No further coffee needs? All right, roll call, please.
Ryan?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
And Norikis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. That completes the consent agenda. And we are into comments from citizen present on agenda, non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the audience to bring to the council's attention any item not listed on the agenda for public hearing or public comment. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per citizen, and the city recorder will use the light system. Speakers may not yield their times to others, and as a general rule, this is not a time for exchange of questions. At the conclusion of this agenda item, a councilor may discuss or raise questions regarding an item presented by a citizen. The mayor has the authority to reduce the time allowed for comment in accordance with the number of persons present and signed up to speak. First on our list, Mr. Paul Long. Good to see you up and walking, Paul.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here tonight. Well, I'm Paul Long.
Thank you.
I have a personal mailbox at 2150 Southeast Highway 1, personal mailbox 335, Lincoln City. I've had it for almost 12 years. This is all I rent in the city. This is all I spend to live here, except I have 3 pensions to spend now, and I try to live here homelessly in an RV. And I've been before you before. Your city charger says the city manager can give me permission to park on the public street, but As far as I know, that's never been granted. I've asked Mr. Hawker, and I've asked the gentleman here, and they have no choice but to say no. The city council has to change the law or change the ordinance. 205-9 says no parking, camping, or sleeping between 2:30 and 5 in the morning. Well, what are you supposed to do at 2:30 or 5 in the morning? Supposed to sleep. You're supposed to be somewhere. Well, I have dodged the police all this time. I finally, on December 13th, in the New York Times, they said that the Supreme Court ruled in the 9th District of the United States in Los Angeles and San Francisco that the police can no longer ban people from living in their vehicles. Well, a few weeks before Christmas, I decided to get that ticket. I finally called the city dispatcher and said, I'm going to be in Taft on 50th Street at 2:30. Come give me the ticket. And they did. Well, since that time, I had hip surgery and I've missed the court date. And now it's $1,000. Well, I went before the clerk this morning, and I get to go before the judge when he returns on March 29th and try to get it reduced. Ladies and gentlemen, I give away $50,000 during the holidays. In October, I came out of a 5-year depression. I'm bipolar, and I had $50,000, and I give it away to my homeless people that I saw on the street. I bought 3 vehicles. I'm driving one of them right now, barely keeping it on the road while I get my RV so I can get out of this town. You don't want me here. I'm homeless. Today, I was denied a meal at the senior center because my dog is not considered a service dog. So I walked out. I also was asked to leave the community center. My dog's not a service dog. But it's kind of strange. You allow him here in the city council meeting, but you won't allow me in the city center, community center. So I came today and spoke to the AD guy with Richard's help, and we talked a little bit about it. And I give him back my library card because I don't own any property here, so can't have that library card without it. So I give it up, and I'm going to get a refund for my membership in the community center. If you don't want me and my family there, then I don't want to be there. I spent $325 to get my dog certified as an emotional support dog. Yes, he's not a service dog. He's there for me, so I don't go off on people. I'm bipolar. You know, I'd have went off on those people today and got arrested. I've been arrested. Every time I stand there and argue with somebody, they call the police. And I'm willing to go to jail, but I turned 70 last month, and I don't want to go to jail anymore. So I'm asking you, where can I park my RV? The Indians don't allow me to park there anymore because they've changed the rules. You spend $40, you can stay there for 3 days. I give away my money. I don't have $40. So I park in your community at your rest area, your city parks, until it's time to close, and then I go find private property somewhere and try to get a rest and sleep. But when I'm manic, I don't sleep for 3 or 4 days. So all I'm asking is, where can I go and park it until I get my RV up and get out of this town? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Mr. Force.
Hey, everybody. Guess what I'm going to talk about? Same old things. All right. You need to get me some new material.
Be sure to give us your name, John.
I'm John Force, 1820 Northeast West Devils Lake Road. We founded the Nelscott Reef Big Wave Classic and have run it continuously for 11 years with the help of local sponsors and local volunteers and funding from the Oregon Sports Authority and Liquid Militia and myself. We allied our event with the Big Wave World Tour for 3 years with promises that the financial burden would be lifted once the Big Wave World Tour was picked up by what was then the ASP and is now the WSL. Those promises were empty, and in fact, when the WSL came into power, they wanted us to pay the expenses of running the contest so they could run their event, pay their athletes and officials, and leave town with us left to pay the bills. Needless to say, we quit the tour. We have been running the Nell Scott Reef Big Wave Classic independently again for 3 years with over 20 local sponsor support and continuing support from Liquid Militia and the Oregon Sports Authority. When we dropped the Big Wave World Tour, our dismissed partner, Adam Wagner, applied for a permit from the BCB, and they didn't see any problem with issuing a permit to 2 different entities for the same waiting period. I say they when it was actually our city attorney that dreamed up this dual permit fiasco. I might add that in the 10 other big wave contest venues in the world, there has never been 2 permits issued to 2 different entities for the same time period. As predicted, the friction from the issuance of these permits manifested itself on January 7th when, after the WSL were given a priority permit over us and called January 5th and 6th for their event, and their forecast fell apart, they, led by Eric Akaskaling, who works for the WSL, and Keith Galbraith, a WSL competitor and leader of the Tiger Sharks, shuttled other WSL athletes into the middle of our event and proceeded to interfere with our event and create safety problems for our safety crew and confusion for our judges, as illustrated by this letter to Jim Coos, the District Safety Officer for the North Lincoln Fire and Rescue. Hello, Jim. I was head judge at the recent Nell Scott Reef event and was wanting to bring to your attention the interference that the judges and contestants observed with surfers that were not listed in the event within the contest area. The outsiders seemed to be organized and were taking waves in front of and around the contestants with no regard to the safety of the contestants or themselves for that matter. In addition, a couple of them were wearing contest jerseys that made it impossible from our viewpoint to tell them from the contestants. For a good part of the event day, the group also had tow-in surfers who pulled right through the event area, at one point encircling one of the SUP surfers, causing him to have a very bad wipeout in a position that was difficult for the safety crew to get to him right away. I'm not sure if there's a way of keeping these events all to the contestant personnel, but maybe if there was positive proof of the identity of the folks causing the safety issues, that they could be ticketed for operating equipment in an unsafe manner with disregard for public safety. That's from Sonny Owens, the head judge of our contest. Here's another affidavit from one of our contestants. When I got into the lineup for the Nell Scott Reef Invitational and saw about 14 paddle surfers trying to line up some 30-foot plus size waves, in the middle of this, 2 tow surfers kept towing surfers into waves about 10 feet away from us. This action was putting up wakes and interfering with the contest. It was 2 pro surfers, Chuck Patterson and Eric Akaskaling. Basically, it was very disrespectful and very distracting. Peter Bush, a competitor. We have plenty more statements going back several years from the safety team members and contestants about ongoing interferences from Eric Akaskaling of the WSL and crew, and know that the city only has control of the park and no jurisdiction in the water. But maybe if they weren't issued a permit in the first place, the situation could have been avoided. By the way, once the BCB was advised of this situation, our permit for all of February for the Nell Scott Reef Big Wave Classic SUP edition has been voided by the BCB, and the WSL was given exclusive rights. I was led to believe that the BCB was set up to assist local businesses and commerce. Our event currently has 15 Lincoln City sponsors listed and linked on our website, and another 10 to 15 statewide that will be denied exposure and sponsorship value due to the VCB decisions. The WSL currently has 0 local sponsors listed on their website, but plenty of corporate entities that are of no value to Lincoln City commerce. How is the VCB servicing Lincoln City? That's my rant for this week. Thanks.
I appreciate it, John. Thank you very much. Mr. Chandler, I don't know if this is the time to talk about it, but I'd sure like to hear a little bit more about, one of the concerns when we first started talking about this permit process and the way we were going to issue permits was one factor was the safety factor and how participants ran their events. We didn't anticipate interference, and this is an allegation, obviously, but if it's people that were interfering with a licensed event or permitted event that we're then going to give a permit to later, I don't know how we can incorporate that into our decision-making policy.
Well, the permits had been issued, okay? and so they were operating on the permits. What Mr. Forrest explains is an inherent problem with this. All the city controls is the parking lot and the bathroom.
Right.
We don't control the beach, and we don't control the water. Those are controlled by another entity. If somebody wants to bring in, and I don't know if these folks that were interfering or alleged to be interfering were from WSL. I don't know where they were from. I don't know who they are. If somebody wants to go surf that wave while an event's going on, they can launch from anywhere they want on the beach, and there's nothing the city can do about it. It is one of the things that we have discussed for next year on how to deal with this, because quite frankly, somebody else ought to be permitting this other than the city, somebody who actually controls access or controls the water, because the city is being put in a position of trying to be a referee.
Right.
And it has not been a good position for the city to have been put into. And, just as an example, mentioned that WSL is reserved through the month of February. Well, Mr. Force's organization has reserved the entire month of March. So if a wave presents itself in March, they will be the ones that have already reserved that. We have been caught in the middle of, and we're being asked to be referees. Somehow, before next year, we've got to figure out how to correct that, because, again, the inherent problem with this is the only thing we control is a bathroom and a parking lot.
Right, and I understand that, and I've had this conversation with Mr. Forrest, too, that, okay, you're out in the water doesn't belong to you, it doesn't belong to us, and that's just the way it is. But I do think there's maybe, and again, this maybe for a later time, but I would like to discuss with you or someone else at some point, if people who are participating if we're granting permits to people, and one of the conditions is running an event safely, and yet they come and interfere in someone else's event and raise safety concerns, there has to be, I don't know if the police get involved, if the Coast Guard gets involved. I mean, if someone cuts someone off, whether it's on a wave or on a street or on a sidewalk, there's still, I'm losing my words here, not reparations, repercussions.
That's certainly the case as far as the issuing of the permits next year, and as we evaluate any applicants that might come in. But as far as the city being able to do anything out on the water, that is just beyond our authority.
I understand. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that. All right. Stacy Taylor. Make sure Kathy gets a copy of that too. Okay.
Hi, I'm Stacy Taylor. I reside at 432 Widow Creek Road in Otis. I have been a volunteer for the Nelscott Reef Big Wave Classic events for the last 5 years. I'm now the Nelscott Reef Big Wave Classics local sponsor coordinator. I work in association with Behemoth LLC. We are hosting an event February 24th at the Lincoln City Cultural Center at 7 p.m. We will be screening a feature-length film produced and filmed on location in Lincoln City, Oregon. The name of the film is The Find, Claiming Nelscott Reef. The film and the Nelscott Reef Classic events have been put Lincoln City on the surfing map worldwide, and we've been featured at foreign film festivals. In addition to the film, we'll be viewing new, unseen drone footage from the 2016 Nelscott Reef Big Wave Classic Invitational Pro-Am. Our competitors are local and professional paddle-in and stand-up paddle surfers. There will be an open forum question and answer period at the end of the screening. If anyone has any questions about the Nelscott Reef future events, staff will be available to answer questions. Also, we will be doing a brief discussion about the new Marine Reserve located just north of Nelscott Reef. This event is sponsored in part by the Lincoln City Cultural Center, and we're also hosting a canned food benefit for the Lincoln County Food Pantry. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate it. I'm just trying to make sure I get your event in my book. Okay, I had two names that were scratched off, is that correct? Sheila and Richard? Yep, okay. All right, anyone who did not sign up would like to come forward and speak? Nope, seeing none, we'll move on. We are at public hearings, public comment on our ordinances. What do we have in public hearings, public comment on? I've got nothing.
We have none.
Okay. Ordinances, Ordinance 2016-03, an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code Title II, Administration and Personnel, Chapter 2.40, Municipal Court, adding a new section 2.40.005 to adopt by reference the rules of judicial conduct.
Your Honor, this is first reading of Ordinance 2016-03, an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title II, Administration and Personnel, Chapter 2.40, Municipal Court, adding a new Section 2.40.005 to adopt by reference the rules of judicial conduct. Briefly, as described in the council communication, this is housekeeping. In 2003, there was a Supreme Court case holding the rules of judicial conduct inapplicable to municipal courts. In fact, the rules were amended to add a section that said these do not apply to municipal courts. Essentially, in 2003, a municipal court judge was being prosecuted by the Judicial Ethics Commission, or Judicial Ethics and Disability. And they, essentially, his defense was, these rules did not apply to me. He won. Thereafter, most cities adopted some code of ethics for the judges to follow because they could not rely upon the Judicial Ethics Commission. So essentially, all we're doing is adopting by reference rules of conduct that are set forth that judges, for example, a justice court judge would follow. We're adopting them, except that we're excluding the provision that says you can get an advisory opinion from the Commission on Ethics, and that the provisions that say that it does not apply to municipal court judges are removed. And we're simply saying that they would follow the same rules as justice court judges. So with that, I'd ask for motion approving first reading, and if you agree, we'll proceed to second reading.
Move to approve first reading of ordinance 2016-03.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Do I need a roll call? I guess roll call on that, please.
Walke?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Norikis?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
And Sprague?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Before I do the second reading, I'll just tell you, I did talk to the judge about adopting these. So this is the second reading of Ordinance 2016-03, an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title II, Administration and Personnel, Chapter 2.40, Municipal Court, adding a new Section 2.40.005 to adopt by reference the rules of judicial conduct. Ask for approval of second reading and adoption of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Ward?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Norikis?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
And Walke?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we're at the resolutions part of the show. Resolution 2016, oh, wait, we just did that. No, 2016-03, a resolution rescinding resolutions number, why is that the same resolution? Oh, that was ordinance, sorry. A resolution rescinding resolution number 2016-01 of the City of Lincoln City and redesignating bank depositories and authorized signatories for checks and drafts of the City of Lincoln City.
Mr. Mayor, this, and City Council, this resolution adds the Bank of Cascades to the list of approved depositories for the city funds and removes the Bank of America as a listed depository entities effective March 7th. The reason for this is that Bank of America sold its assets here in Oregon to Bank of Cascades. We took this as an opportunity to shop a little bit to see if the Bank of Cascades would be the most competitive place to put our funds. Our employee, Scott Morgan, contacted the banks in this area, both local and national, gave them a list of the criteria. They went through it. Some of them submitted estimates to us, some of them did not, and based upon that information, the Bank of Cascades came out on top, and so we were proposing to add them to the list of the bank depositories that are approved.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2016-03.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chandler, I understand the finance. I guess the question I have is all these institutions are, I'm glad they have branches in Lincoln City, and that's nice, but that doesn't qualify as a local institution. I'm going to assume that we did approach Oregon Coast Bank.
We did.
And I guess I'm wondering if it appears to be all about the money, which is important, but we don't have anything to judge here as they were so far out of the ballpark.
If my recollection serves me right, they did not respond.
That changes things. I appreciate at least showing the opportunity and going it, because I think it's real important that we, as many times as we can, touch local, even if it costs us a little more just because of the dollars recycling in the community. So thank you and staff for doing that.
Anyone else? I have a quick question. Having gone through several bank changes with my businesses, I know what a pain that is. Do we have a liaison with them who's going to help make this happen on the 7th?
Yes, as a matter of fact, their staff essentially hasn't changed. So Rusty Stump is their bank manager. He is the one that has been working with us.
All right.
And we'll continue to work with them as well as his boss has also been working closely with us.
Okay, so I guess I just want to give people the assurance that we're not going to give them the old, oh, well, we changed banks, so we can't get you your checks today. And
No.
Make sure the public is aware we've got it covered.
We do. Everything
Bills will be paid.
everything is in order. Fingers crossed, nothing goes wrong.
All right, thank you so much. So, any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to read the advantages here that Mr. Chandler provided us with regarding Bank of Cascades, if I may.
Please.
Pricing is competitive or better than pricing with other local banks. Number 2, our bank account number will remain the same, reducing transition costs. 3, the city will save an estimated $9,000 a year in bank fees. 4, Bank of the Cascades will give the city a $1,500 credit to help offset conversion costs. 5, Bank of the Cascades will sign an agreement keeping prices fixed for 3 to 5 years. And 6, they had excellent references. Thank you for that, Mr. Chandler.
Well done. Anyone else? So we need a roll call on this?
Williams,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Norikis,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Sprague,
Yes.
Walke. Yes. And Ward. Yes. Motion carries.
Okay, Resolution 2016-04, a resolution setting forth correction measures for deficiencies identified in City of Lincoln City, Oregon's 2014-15 Annual Financial Report.
This is a follow-up from our last meeting in which you received a report from the auditors. During their review, they identified 2 areas that needed to be corrected. The first was that there was a fund that was significant enough in size or in dollar amount that it should be considered as a major fund, which means it's listed and identified separately in the audit report and financial statements. We did not do that, so that's a correction that we need to make for next year. The second is that we had one inventory item. It was about a $47,000 inventory item that did not get reported, and they cited that as something that needed to be corrected. The resolution before you tonight outlines how the city staff will correct that, and specifically, the finance department shall apply the governmental accounting standings board criteria to determine if a fund is significant enough to require a separate presentation. And then the second one is that we will be doing some research to find a proper tool to manage our inventory so we don't miss something like this in the future.
Who would be heading that up? Where does one go to find that kind of stuff?
Debbie Mamoni, our finance director, and Tony Losoya, our IT manager, they will be the ones that are doing the research on that.
And we'll be hearing back from them?
We will.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I need a motion. Or I guess we need a correction too.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. There's one correction on the ordinance. It lists Councilor Waukee as the chair. That was from the Urban Renewal Agency. It should list Don Williams as mayor.
With that change, then I guess we're looking for a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the resolution to approve Resolution 2016-04, a resolution setting forth corrective measures for deficiencies identified in the City of Lincoln City, Oregon's 2014/15 annual financial report.
Second.
Motion and a second. I can just do a up or down on this one, right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, Resolution 2016-05, a resolution updating the systems development charges for the water system, approving a list of existing capital assets and a list of future capital improvements, updating the water master plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Back on these...
Ron, I'm going to interrupt you just because I mentioned it last time. We've had some people who got a hold of me and said, we know who you are. Nobody else does. There you go. Thank you, Mr. Tierney.
Okay. Back on December the 28th, our Public Works Director, Mrs. Bradley, gave you a PowerPoint presentation of our future water and sewer projects for the next 15 years. And then after that, in January, we had a workshop regarding system development charges. We use exactly that same list of capital improvements as we talked about in December. Our consultant gave his report. The results of that report was that our water system development charges will be reduced, I believe, 31%, and our sewer system development charges about 41%.
Bravo.
What we have before you tonight is the resolution that adopts the capital improvement projects and the new system development charge. There's one resolution for water, one resolution for sewer. They're separate because it's highly unusual that you would look at them both at the same time. So going out into the future, you may look at the water SDC 3 years from now. You may look at sewer 5 years from now. So that's why they're in a separate resolution.
Ron, what were, excuse me, Mr. Please. Ron, what were those percentages again, please?
31 and
I see 33.
It's 33% on water and 41% on sewer. So let me give you the example. A 5/8 inch meter, which would be a single-family residence, would go in sewer. No, in water would go from $2,960 down to $1,976. And in sewer, it drops from $6,182 down to $3,653. You have about a $3,500 total decrease.
Did you have something wrong?
I think you may have said that one wrong.
Yeah, I didn't read
You
that.
said it went from 6,000 down to 2,000. I think it's 3,600.
Now, 6 down to 3,600, the decrease is 25.29.
Never argue with the money man.
So it's about $3,500 per single-family residence.
So, can you, I may be getting ahead of you, I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
Can you tell us why the decreases?
The biggest reason for the decreases is we have to remember that in each case, water and sewer, there's two portions to it. There's a reimbursement portion, and that's what we call the buy-in, like when you build a new house, you can hook up to the water sewer immediately because people before you have already built the system. So that's your buy-in. The second one is the improvement portion of the fee, and that is at some point in time you're contributing to expanding the system. Now what happened was we have done many projects in the improvement expansion of capacity area. Obviously sewer, we built a brand new sewer treatment plant, $20 million. Okay, so that is no longer in the improvement portion of the fee, it's now in the replacement portion of the fee. In water, probably the biggest project was the new reservoir and booster pump station in the Rhodes Inn area. That was a $5.5 million project. The other big project would have been the $4 million that we spent on the Drift Creek project of getting a new water source, water pump station, and the pipeline to the plant. So we had a lot of improvement projects that are now complete and are now over in the replacement portion. It doesn't go over dollar for dollar as you would logically think. That if this one went down $1,000 and this should go up $1,000. It doesn't work that way. The calculations for each one of them is different. The one in the reimbursement part is based upon the depreciated value of the fixed assets on our accounting records. And there's a computation you make. In the improvement side, it's a capacity computation. And as an example, the water treatment plant has a capacity of 6 million gallons per day. Originally, that was 8 million gallons per day. But because of all the leaks and everything that we have fixed, we're nowhere near that 6 million gallon capacity that we have out there. Okay, so we divided that out. And I'm not going to try to get all the way into the computation. That's why we hired the consultant, because I can't really do it the way he does it. But that's the main reason is this switching in projects that we have done $40 million in projects in the last 15 years.
40 million?
I mean, I'm ballparking that, but yeah.
That's impressive to me.
And so now going forward, that improvement fee is down, but the major projects like in sewer, and we're going out like 15 years, the major projects you have left is a biosolid solution, which we don't have a firm fix on yet, and a second line going under Drift Creek to the sewer treatment plant. On the water side, we have a water reservoir that we will have to build for more capacity. That's somewhere out 2025, 2030. Because of the capacity we now have in the water treatment plant, I don't anticipate having to go to that 8 million. We built that in '97 when we expanded it from 4 million to 6 million. We did it on a footprint where we could easily expand it to 8 million. I don't see that project. I couldn't even guess when that project would ever come online.
Wow. So, as you continue to repair leaks in the future, that's going to put downward pressure on the charges, the systems development charges?
My quick answer to that would be no. As Mr. Chandler mentioned in our workshop and in our budget process, we will be bringing back this capital improvement list every year. And I know we'll be making tweaks to it. But you're not going to be reviewing those SDCs unless these major projects in the improvement side get completed. So if we did the biosolid, the line underneath the Schooner Creek, and there's one more major project, probably by the time we got through, you haven't even heard the report yet on biosolids, by the time we get through a design period, a construction period, you're 3 to 5 years down the road. Now, we may tweak the capital improvement plan every year, but you're not going to be tweaking the SDCs until something major happens, because it takes quite a bit to move that needle.
Cool. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
As always, making it easy to understand. I appreciate that.
Okay, I have one more thing to bring up. In the resolutions that you have this evening that I put together, it says this resolution will become effective as of the date of the adoption by the City Council. What we're really amending here is the new SDCs that went into effect January 1, 2016. And we have talked within staff and everything of should we make this retroactive to January 1st? Or should it be as written? And that was, I couldn't make that decision and change the resolution because we've never discussed it. And I didn't feel comfortable doing that. But I'd feel comfortable with whatever you desire.
How many properties are you saying?
We have 4. There's 3 single-family residents and 1 29-unit apartment house.
Be a nice little bump for somebody. So this would have been offered had we had this then, right?
If we'd had it January 1st, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we did not have it at that point in time. But that's the, see, we update the SDCs every January 1st for the engineering cost index. So that is what went into effect January 1. That is the one that we are basically amending.
Okay, so just so I'm clear then, we would be a motion to approve 2016 with a retroactive date of January 1, 2016. Correct?
If that's what you wish to do.
Okay, so I guess we need a discussion about that. How does council feel about that?
I have no objection.
Correct. I'd go with that.
I'm good too.
Yeah, me too.
That'd be a very nice thing. Roger, you're looking pensive.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
I just don't like to see the money go out of the fund, and that's an important fund, not para funds.
Right, well, that was my question, though, that if this had been before, it was going to be that anyway. It's just we getting it at this time, they would have gotten it anyway. Yeah. Okay.
Mayor, I'd make the motion to approve Resolution 2016-05, a resolution updating the system development charge for the water system, approving a list of existing capital assets and a list of future capital improvements, updating the water master plan, and have it retro effective January 1, 2016.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
According to our consultant, compared to 8 other coastal communities, our SDC rates, our system development charges, are among the lowest. We've made significant improvements to our water and sewer systems over the past 15 years, and the city services are on a much improved footing as a result. I believe we are able to lower these system development charges as a result of good planning and the wise and prudent use of public funds. I'm proud to have been a part of that planning process, and I want to thank staff for this very positive outcome.
Anyone else?
I have a question. Please. What type of money are we talking about?
On the refunds?
Yeah.
Talking $3,500 per single-family residence, so there's 3 of those.
Nice.
I'm rounding off here. I just quickly did this calculation, but we're talking probably close to between 60 and 70,000 on the apartment house.
Excellent.
That's money that less money we will be taking in. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll have to write a check back to them.
So we're talking $70,000?
Yes. Talking about $49,000 in sewer and $22,000 in water. But you got to take into consideration, you paid $250,000 in total for STCs, for transportation, parks, water, and sewer. Plus another $23,000 for the school excise tax.
A quick question to you, Ron, is how do we get this information out? How do people, builders, developers, potential homeowners, learn that it's going to be less expensive to build in Lincoln City?
Well, we can certainly get the information out, but I don't think it will be very hard for builders to catch on to this. They'll know about it very quickly if they don't already. But we'll find a way to make sure that gets
I would
published.
appreciate that, yeah. I wouldn't want to count on just the grapevine. This is exciting news for Lincoln City, and I think it's something we need to take strong advantage of before we have more projects that take it back away and get some real development going here. So we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I guess roll call.
Norikis?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
And Anderson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and then we are at, sorry, I scrolled past it. We are at 201606, a resolution updating the system development charge for the sewer system, approving a list of existing capital assets and a list of future capital improvements, updating the sewer master plan. So,
And do we
same
want-
thing, different number.
And we want that one also retroactive to January 1st? Is that correct? I would make that motion, that we accept resolution, let me run back up here,
201606.
201606, retroactive to January 1st, 2016.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ryan?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
And Norikis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good news. Thank you so much, Ron. And, I wanted to make sure that I give, I'm sorry, I'm having the senior moments. I want to recognize Mr. David Hawker and his leadership during that time to get these capital improvement projects done.
Here, here.
We did a lot of building here and kept the rates low, got the projects done, and serving the community very well. So I just wanted to make sure we said thank you to him and for all the council members who served during that time, and staff. Thank you. All right, so we're at resolution, no, we're not at 2016-07. We skipped right past that. Special order of business. Appointment to Visitor and Convention Committee. Sam Allen for term expiring 11/5/2018. I need a motion to appoint, or what do we need on this, folks?
I think you need a recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Oh, that was ours, wasn't it? That was you. Would you like to make that recommendation?
Yes.
Okay.
I recommend that we
Thank you,
appoint
Jessica.
Sam Allen to the position on the Visitor and Convention Committee, which expires 11/5/18.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to thank Mr. Allen, Mr. Mayor, for volunteering.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Allen. I sure appreciate it, and I know it's been a trying time for him, and I'm glad to have him on board.
He's been on the committee for a number of years and offered a lot of experience.
You bet. You bet. Good man. All right. And then we are at appointment to Visitor and Convention Committee, Diane Coos. And that's us again. Councilor Walke, if you'd like to.
Excuse me. I recommend and approve and move that we appoint Diane Coos to a position on the Visitor and Convention Committee, which expires 11/5/2018.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. And again, we would like to thank Mrs. Coos for her efforts. She's been very giving of her time and expertise. And I think we still have, am I reading this right? We have 5 vacant positions still, Kathy, on that committee?
You should have, no, I think there's just maybe 3. There was,
Okay.
it
Do we have a
switched
quorum,
from
though?
9 to 7.
Okay, so we have a quorum, though, at this point.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. We are at appointment to the library board.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I did one of the interviews for Tammy Geiser. She's been on the board. She served a full term, and she was willing to volunteer again for another term, and I'm glad to have her, and I would recommend that we approve her as a member of the library board.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I also interviewed Ms. Geiser and recommend that she be appointed.
All righty. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. And Council Communication, American with Disability Act Draft Transition Plan. Oh, Doug, I'm sorry. Let me jump back up here.
Hey, good evening.
The Americans with Disabilities Transition Plan.
So I'm going to describe a little bit where we are in the process, and then I'm going to hand it over to our ADA coordinator. Yes, please, thank you. So this is the start of a public process for creating the final ADA transition plan. We are bringing this to City Council tonight. It's part of the packet, so the public has had a chance to look at it. But what we're asking is for a formal announcement to an opportunity to comment for the public. And then we're also going to be taking this to the project advisory team, who had a big place in leading this effort from the beginning, and then we'll request their input as well. So this is, again, kind of the beginning of a public information process, an opportunity for the public to comment. So if you remember, a while back, we introduced our ADA coordinator, Kevin Mateus, and he's been busy working on this plan, and he's going to go through it and answer any questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good evening, Council. I'm happy to be here tonight. What we have here is our draft transition plan for the ADA. It is something that's required by the 1990 Act of Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. Basically, since we are a city with over 50 employees, we are required to have a transition plan after we've completed a self-evaluation, which was completed back in 2013? Okay. Which was completed back in 2013 by a consultant. So with that information and then a self-evaluation plan that I conducted reviewing our program, services, and activities, we took that information, I took that information and created our draft transition plan. So what's required in this plan, as you can see, is identifying physical barriers, which we have quite a few. Unlike a lot of cities, they have quite a few also. So it's not something that's just Lincoln City. It's kind of across the United States that there are many ADA deficiencies around. We also have to describe the methods of how we're going to do it, and that's within our plan. We are providing a schedule also, which again is in our plan. It's at the very end. And we indicate the public official responsible for implementing this plan, which would be myself. So within our plan, so the overview of our plan, what I talk about is the recommendations for our services, programs, and activities. And so we go through customer service, we go through printed material, we go through public meetings and events like this activity tonight. We go through customer service, we go through our websites, and overall, the city does a really great job, in my opinion, of reaching out and providing services for people with disabilities. But there's always a little room for improvement. And so there's my recommendations in here, what we should probably be doing to improve our services to them. I also talk about our public facilities, our parks and beach accesses, and our public right-of-way. That's probably where most people look at the ADA, is like the built environment. And so, again, we have quite a few deficiencies in here. What I've done is talk about how we want to go about correcting these deficiencies. Oh, okay, yes. One thing I want to emphasize about this document here, it is a living document. It will always be evolving due to the nature of how things are built, how things might gain popularity and some things might not be as popular. That we always want to say, you know, we want to build things and correct things, but even though we have set down a timeline and a schedule for these things, we need to be open that we might come across a situation where money might come in to build a certain or correct a certain deficiency. And obviously we don't want to jump on that, be able to do that, rather than say, oh no, I'm sorry, that's, you know, that's number 97. We need to focus on these other ones first. We want to go where the money's at. So if the money's there, we want to take care of it. It could be a utility saying we need to rip out some concrete panels along a sidewalk to put a line in. That's fine, do that. But when you rebuild it, you need to make sure it's ADA accessible. So again, we need to look at it as evolving and really going where the money's at and going with the flow of things. So these next few slides are pages from the DAC report, and they were very thorough. They looked at everything from the height of coat hangers within bathroom stalls to toilet paper dispensers where they're located, grab bars, stuff like that, to, you know, drinking fountains that do not meet the specifications or size of bathroom stalls to elevators and to counter sizes. So, I mean, they were very thorough, which is great. So those are things we need to look at when we're trying to redo things. So if you're going to redo a bathroom, you just look at, okay, we're going to, you know, might have to expand a stall, might need a new door, or if we're going to put a new door in there, let's make sure our coat hanger's at the right height. So there's a lot of these things. And so with all those things, it was hard to put that every item into a report. It would just go on for, what do we say, over 9,000 pages, which I reviewed, all 9,000 pages. It took a while. Eyes got kind of blurry every once in a while. So what I did, I kind of started grouping things into categories. So for Regatta Park, you know, parking could be anything from the width of the painted line to the slope of the parking space. So I took all those things and put them into categories: parking, path of travel, curb ramps, restrooms, play areas, stairs, drinking fountains. Kind of put all those into groups. And now we know that for Regatta Park, it's going to cost, according to the DAC estimate, as well as a 20% cushion, over $247,000. It's a fairly good chunk of money. But, like you said, with the living document, we know we're putting in a new gazebo at Regatta Park. That kind of said, okay, we're putting something new in there. We need to make sure we're putting an accessible pathway to that gazebo, as well as a ramp, which is in the plans. Lila Bradley told me that we have $70,000 to work on the playground. Great. Our focus is going to be accessibility and surfacing. Currently, our surface there is what's called engineered wood fibers. When the ADA first came out, those were considered accessible. As more studies went into looking at these things, it's determined that the only way those are accessible is if you come out every day, water them, rake them to make sure you always had 2-inch coverage of the playground. That's a very hard thing to do. So we're looking at putting a new surface in there, which would be artificial turf. And we're looking at rebuilding the ramp up to the play structure at Regatta Park, make sure that meets ADA accessibilities. We're going to work on putting in a new pathway to be able to connect on the upper play area down where the bathrooms are at. Bathrooms are very important things to do. Currently, we don't have money for the bathrooms, but hopefully down the line we'll get that money to do that. So we're definitely moving forward and making progress and trying to meet our requirements. This here is our top 26 curb ramps within the city streets. This does not include Highway 101. These are, and we have 127, I believe. Let me look at that real fast. 126 curb ramps, or I should say 127 intersections with curb ramps that need to be corrected. As you can tell, we've already made progress on a few of these. As you can see on the map, they're dispersed all over the city. They also have curb ramps for Highway 101, which is a little conundrum for us, and we can get down a little bit. But as you can tell, Northeast 22nd is, in my opinion, a very high priority location for us. We have 2 schools there. We have a community center, a very large park with ball fields and a skate park, as well as businesses. So it'd be a good spot to really focus on putting in new curb ramps. And we have completed 6, and I believe we've already built a new curb ramp that wasn't there before. So that would not be on there. So we are making progress. And so hopefully, as the money comes in, we'll be able to focus more on meeting some of these curb ramps to bring them up to ADA standards. So, well, before we go to the next steps, So before we go to the next steps, one of the conundrums we have is Highway 101. That is an entity that is overseen by ODOT, but we realize that it's a huge aspect for Lincoln City. And there are definitely some gaps in 101, although the Nelscott project was, in my opinion, a huge success with the brand new sidewalks and those beautiful curb ramps. As I wander around other communities, that's the first thing I always look at is curb ramps now. Does that meet ADA standards? But so 101, we realize, again, that's a huge part of our community. And so we need to work with ODOT in trying to bridge or connect the gaps along 101. Again, that's going to be depending on money, and hopefully ODOT will work with us so we can actually get those gaps completed and filled in. That was one of the recommendations we did get from our PAT committee, that they really like to see a full sidewalk along Highway 101 rather than going for a while, then dumped off into a shoulder or gravel. That's not very accessible. So we're hopefully going to be able to work with ODOT and get those gaps filled. Okay, so our next steps, what we have here is the report, and I believe you guys have that. We want to open up to public comment. We want to send it directly to our PAT team members so they have access to it. This is also, we'll have it ready to be put out on our city webpage, and we'll have 3 hard copies available, one at the library, one at the community center, and one at the information desk here on the 3rd floor of City Hall. And then people will have an opportunity to make comments on it, either through our webpage with the comments section, or a written comment that they can mail in to me or email in to me so I can accumulate all these comments. And we plan to hold these comment session open till April 8th, at which point we'll take all these comments, we'll look through them, hopefully make some new recommendations, or maybe we'll say, this is really good, let's go with it. So it all depends on what they feel. And then, of course, it's going to be up to you, the City Council, to give us direction on how you like to see this play out also.
That's the end of our presentation, unless you have any questions.
Yes.
As I went through the report, I found millions of dollars that we're talking about here. And then I also looked at the time span that we're talking about, 6 to 10 years overall. It looked like to me for all of those projects. Is it conceivable that we can do those with the millions of dollars it's going to take?
I was being very aggressive. Being an ADA coordinator, I felt that's something we should do. I have been advised by our Public Works Department that that might have been far-reaching. Again, that's something we can look at through our public comments. Obviously, we could bring it out further. It might be out to 15 years, might be out to 20 years, redressing those timelines.
Okay, one other question that I have is that I know that the thing that precipitated this whole thing in the beginning was that Lincoln City was really far deficient in its ADA compliance, and that we were concerned about whoever it is that goes around and finds the cities that are in our position and then files a claim, and we end up paying tons of money in fines. So is this plan sufficient to keep us safe from that situation?
This plan will show the Department of Justice that we are making a good faith effort to meet the ADA standards. It shows them that we understand what we have in front of us. We know this costs a lot of money. Hopefully we have a reasonable timeline out there. And then we need to actually start making corrections. I mean, we can just say, hey, here it is, and not do anything. They might get a little suspicious and think, what's going on here? But if we can say every year, like, hey, we corrected 5 curb ramps, and we brought our community center pool up to standards. I think that would show the Department of Justice that we are making a good faith effort. A lawsuit can always be brought against us, but hopefully the DOJ would say, well, these guys are working to make it better, so it might not be that big of an issue.
Good, thank you.
Please.
Kevin, I have 3 questions. One
Sure.
actually is part of Rogers. So there's no statutory deadlines as far as how soon you have to get these projects done?
There's no deadline. Like I said, it's a kind of a living document. And so, we want to be reasonable and say, we think we can get it done 20 years, 15 years, whatever. But obviously, as the money comes in, or as I was told from other cities, cities that have transition plans before 2008, they had these great visions. 2008 hit, the funds basically dried up. Their transition plan I won't say got put on hold, but they weren't able to meet everything that they suggested. So again, it depends. If the economy works well for us and money comes in, then we can really make a progress. And there might be some things that just might not need to be addressed. The ADA basically says we need to have make our programs, services, and activities accessible to everyone. And so, in here at the City Hall, we need an accessible route to all our levels. And with the new elevators that we put in, that definitely meets an accessible route. So our stairs here, they do not meet ADA standards, but those definitely would be put on the back burner because we do have an accessible route to get to the library.
So I'm just saying to avoid painting ourselves in the corner, you can put it out, rather than saying 1 to 5, if you said 1 to 15, if you got it done in 5, there's great, but you're not locked into that, right?
You're not locked into it, but I think we'd want to say, these are things you think can be done within 5 years. These are things we want to get done within 10 years. These are things that 15 years.
Well, I'm going to assume some of that's been figured into just replacement as things wear out anyway.
Exactly.
Not new construction.
Exactly.
That's okay. So 2nd out of 3. How do we prioritize what projects we do first? What's the mechanism for doing that?
Within the report, there is a system that was recommended to us by our consultant. We also took information from the Department of Justice. They really recommend, again, making sure facilities that get high use, such as City Hall, library, community centers, that those would be high on the list that get resolved first. And then for the curb ramps, they talk about, Department of Justice also talks about, priorities. One would be government offices, places of business, places, employment, schools, stuff like that.
Okay, and my last question is, how are the money estimates obtained? I see a bunch of figures, but there's not much that shows the component of those figures, the components.
So the DAC report, or the consultant provided a report, and with each item that they identified, they put an estimate of cost. And those estimates came across the country, costs from across the country, and then average them out. So some places they might say, this is really high, or some places say, no, this is really low. So they gave us an estimate, and then I took that number and added 20% to it just to give us a little space in case we needed that. And so from those numbers, I then added everything up to get these estimates for the elevators.
So for the best you could, it's just more of a guesstimate rather than an actual bid. Right? Okay.
Correct.
I'm done. Thanks.
Anyone else?
I've got questions.
Please.
So it looks like the purple highlighted items are like priority items?
Those were the 1 to 5 years plan, yes.
And over on the right hand, to the right hand of the purple boxes, it says cost, but that's the total estimate, is that?
So for each category, like the path to travel for Lincoln Square, DAC estimated it cost about $50,500 to do it, to correct it. And then we have a completion estimated, which is the years. And then when they're completed, there'll be a cost, what we actually spent on that.
Okay, I don't know how to explain this. I'm looking on, the pages aren't numbered. I think it would be less confusing if the estimate total would be under the estimate list, because it's over there where it says cost actual.
Correct. Yeah, that's something that I noticed that I thought should have been in a different location, actually.
Okay, thank you. I found some typos that I'd like to get together with you another time about. I have a question about the police station, and there's several things there, and actually it's only $271,000, but if we're going to build a new police station, is there really reason to make those changes?
Well, no. Yeah, if we're putting a bond out to build a new police station, we're not going to make these corrections. We're going to build a brand-new police station that meets all the ADA requirements, and it's going to be state-of-the-art, ADA accessible. People are going to come from around the world and say, wow, you guys did a great job.
Okay, great. I just don't want us to rush into things that are going to be torn down.
Correct. That's something we would not want to do.
My question about the community center is there was quite an amount for the locker rooms. It's my understanding that they were remodeled not that long ago. How did we miss those things?
I'm just going by what the DAC report found. So it could have been that the seats were not put in the right location. It could have been the lockers were not at the right height. The gadgets to use the lockers were not probably in the right location. And then another big issue is the slope of the floor. We're only allowed 2% max slope. And so what's probably a challenge is being a locker room, you want some of the water to run off into drains. So that can be a challenge. I would have to go back and look at exactly what was brought up there.
Just really upsetting that not very long ago we made big changes, and to not do them up to standard, pretty upsetting. I'm a little confused about what path of travel is.
The path of travel is basically the path that someone would travel between, say, the parking lot or the sidewalk up to the building, into the building, and then path of travel down to different locations. It could be the checkout counter at the library. It could be a bathroom in the library or City Hall. So basically, everything that we have to offer needs to be on an accessible path of travel.
And what's wrong with the path of travel here in Lincoln Square?
For one thing, the lamps along the hallway here, they stick out too far.
The what do?
The
Sconces?
sconces, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes. There's a lot of things within the ADA that you really like, really? That's something? But it's amazing what they've all looked at.
I guess I don't want to read all those.
Yeah,
90
so,
pages.
but I'd say the biggest issue with Lincoln Square's path of travel is going from the parking lot into our facility. Our parking lot does not meet the ADA standards for levelness, and especially trying to get from the parking lot into the main entrance lobby downstairs. The ramp is too steep, so that's a challenge.
I have a question about closed captioning on Channel 4. When someone has a hard time reading, hearing, and needs closed captioning, isn't that on their device?
Well, their device would need to be able to read our closed captioning. So we need to provide the closed captioning through our signal going out.
Okay.
And so their television or whatever device they use would pick up our signal and then interpret or print out on the screen what is being said. And so the challenges are definitely live broadcasts like tonight. Our IT supervisor and myself have sat down and talked about this, trying to figure out how we can do this. We're hoping the technology will catch up to what we need to do. I mean, right now it's basically hiring a person to sit here and type really fast what is being said. That costs a lot of money. So hopefully in the future there will be technology, software out there that can take what's being said and translate it onto our signal that goes out to the TV sets.
On page 7, it lists city council meetings. Provide closed captioning service for city council meetings, but there's a lot of other meetings that are held in this space.
Yes, yes.
So I wondered if you wanted to include mention of those meetings.
Yes, I'll definitely want to talk about that, mention that also.
I think that's all I had for now.
Okay, anyone else?
Kevin, I'd like to acknowledge and appreciate the accomplishments we've achieved so far in terms of local government requirements. All local governments with over 50 employees are required to designate a responsible employee to coordinate ADA compliance. We've done that by hiring you. The city is also required to provide notice to the public about rights of citizens under the ADA. The city has posted notice on the city's website and other locations, so that's been done. The city is also required to establish a grievance procedure, which it has done. Procedures are described on the webpage, as well as an appeal process. And the city is also required to conduct a self-evaluation and develop a transition plan, and these have been completed. With the completion of the 2 self-evaluations, Kevin has completed the 2016 draft transition plan. The transition plan reduces down the over 10,000 pages self-evaluation reports into a plan that, 1, identifies physical obstacles that limit the accessibility of the public entities, programs, services, or activities to people with disabilities. Number 2, describes the methods to make the facilities accessible. Number 3, provides a schedule for making the access modifications. And number 4, provides a schedule for providing curb ramps or correcting current curb ramps. This draft plan lumps together all the different deficiencies into 4 categories: facilities, parks, beach access, and sidewalks. Cost estimates are shown to address all of the deficiencies within each category. I'm glad to see that we're making progress. Thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, Kevin, I would echo the earlier comment. I think Mr. Ward brought it up, stretching out the time. I'm one for, if we are willing to put it in writing, we ought to meet it. And I didn't see totals on some of these 1 to 5 items, year time frame, but I'm sure it's staggering. And I'd like to make sure we have plenty of wiggle room, so to speak, to not only accomplish it, but not let money get in the way. So, and I'm assuming, since this is a draft, and I heard you say you're going out to the public, we, the council, will get another look at this stuff with changes.
Certainly.
So we'd have, again, an opportunity to echo that kind of stuff. My final thought, I didn't hear you say about any assistance that cities might get from, the big governments in the sky, federal or state, to assist in the way of grants. Are you aware of such stuff, and will you be applying?
Grants are very hard to come by within the ADA. I've been providing ADA services since 2000. And every time I talk to other professionals in this field or go to conferences, that's the first question that always comes up: how do we pay for this? How do we pay for this? And there's always big discussions, but there aren't grants out there. Not necessarily specifically for ADA, no. You have to be kind of creative and apply for grants that might build sidewalks leading to schools for your safe route to schools. Or there was block grants out there. Unfortunately, those are for urban centers, bigger urban centers, so that limits us also. But yeah, that's basically the $64 million question. Where does the $64 million come from to pay for these things? And I wish there was grants out there so we could apply to get these things.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Is the reason that you didn't put a grand total at the bottom is you didn't want to scare us? I think it would be worthwhile, at least for us and maybe for the public, to know exactly how much it's going to cost to do that.
$7.74 million.
7.4 million?
7.74. $7,740,000.
In total, or the 1 to 5?
That's total.
A lot of money.
It is. So, got a question then, is how are we going to pay for it?
Well,
and I'll be serious, I guess it's more to Ron, is how will we be allocating this money? Is that going to be through the budget? Is this going to be coming for requests as projects come up? How will that be?
It will be a discussion as part of the entire budget process. So as you look at incorporating the different items in this into your capital plan, that's how you'll be able to begin to discuss and allocate it. With each of these categories, there's a lot of detail that goes with it. Kevin has talked a little bit about some of those. As we go through the budget process, that detail will come out to you as you go through and you look at not only the recommendations that you're going to receive as far as the prioritization of it, but then also the financing prioritization of it as well.
Am I wrong in assuming we're going to have our budget hearings before we receive your report? Your recommendations?
We will have some of the budget hearings, but we will also be bringing back some of including this into it.
Okay. Okay. It seems like you've got a lot of work to do before then. Okay, a couple questions, if I might, then. You brought up beach access, and maybe, again, this is going to be questions for Ron or somebody else. Where does our beach access end, and where does the responsibility to access that beach begin on the state side?
Most of our beach access would be through the parking spaces we provide, as well as a path of travel down to the sand. Once we hit the sand, that's not our responsibility. It's not been mandated by the ADA to talk about access actually on the beach.
Okay, because I'm thinking, as I've gone to different, depending on when you go to it, you can have a 4-inch drop right off the edge of those pathways.
Exactly.
That is our responsibility end at that point. We say, well, we took you here.
Yes, yes. Once we hit the sand, the sand is not it's not under our jurisdiction to provide access to there. If we were a federal entity, that's a different story. There's a different law called the Architectural Barrier Act, which oversees all federal lands. And one thing they put in there is beach access actually out to the high tide line. We don't have to do that. It's great if we could. I mean, I think it would be wonderful if we could, but we just need to get down to where the sand is.
Okay.
So if we provide a pathway down to a point, we want to make that accessible as much as possible. Obviously, some of our access routes are very steep to get to the beach, and so that's why you'd want to choose certain ones that we know would be easier to make accessible than the very steep ones.
Okay. Next question, you may not be able to answer this, but as far as this grievance procedure goes, it seems pretty generous to a city that it may not be extended to a private business that's open for public use. I know as a business owner, if someone walks in and has a ADA complaint against me, I don't get to say, well, file a grievance, and I'll look it over, and then I'll send it to my committee, and then I'll talk to you later. Do you know, is that extended to the private sector?
My understanding is that the private sector, which is under Title III of the ADA, they haven't, how do I want to say this? They're not as scrutinized as the public sector. So we as a public sector has a lot more responsibility to provide accessibility than a private sector entity.
Okay. Then you mentioned something about the highest use in determining projects and priorities and the highest use. And I have to ask the question, highest for who? When I know that, say, in February, we have a very limited population of citizens. But if you come here in August, we've got a high population of visitors who will not be accessing City Hall. And so who are we designating our highest use for, the citizens or for an overall population that's accessing our city?
Well, we want you for everyone who comes to Lincoln City, so citizens as well as the tourists, the visitors. So obviously, you know, beach access would be high up there, but as a government agent, as a government facility, we need to make sure that we are accessible too, or that's why we want to focus on that. So in trying to figure out high use, I sat down with Lila Bradley as well as Stephanie Reed here, and we talked about, you know, who really uses it, you know, summertime versus wintertime. And so.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was being considered.
Yeah.
Okay. I got that taken care of. And that, okay, that's it. End of my questions. Thank you. That was a great presentation. You got a lot of work ahead of you.
We do, but, you know, I have to commend the city for actually hiring a ADA coordinator. It's very unlikely for a city to hire someone specifically for this position. I'm grateful that you chose me to do it, but most cities will just appoint someone who's already on board, such as a public works director or a human resource director, but actually having the foresight to go out and hire an ADA coordinator is brilliant on your part. I've been approached by other people who work in the ADA field saying, how do you pull that off, Kevin? How did you get an actual ADA position? It's like, well, good timing. Lucky timing. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
You know, that begs a question. Kevin, can you venture a guess, and not to hold you full right, but the best education guess you can make, in Oregon, you know, where does Lincoln City sit in the lineup of cities as far as attacking this issue of ADA compliance? And let you think about it a bit so I can stammer on. But, you know, my concern is we've been targeted by some medias as not doing enough, and yet, you know, I'm of a belief that we're way ahead of the curve, and you start counting all the cities in Oregon, even on the coast, way above. But in your conferences, in your gatherings, in your associations, do you have any sense of where Lincoln City might fit?
I would definitely say we are on the higher end of making progress toward meeting our ADA requirements.
Top 10%?
Top 10%? Sure, yes.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Again, you know, there are a lot of communities out there who are getting their eyes open to like, what? We need to do this? Which is, in my opinion, kind of sad since the ADA has been around for 25 years now. And so, I mean, this is basically back in 1992, that's when it came into effect. And now it's 2016. So there's a lot of communities out there that still need to make progress. And, you know, I think Lincoln City could be a role model to a lot of communities, especially on the coast. The coast is not an easy place to build accessible spaces. I'm learning that. I know Stephanie Reed points that out to me pretty much every day when I say, no, you really focus on. It's a very steep slope, Kevin. So, but I think we're definitely in the forefront of meeting our ADA requirements.
Anyone else?
And in terms of funding these projects, Kevin, it strikes me that this is a good example of a unfunded mandate from the federal government, is it not?
Yes, very much so. It's, again, you know, it's a mandate that personally I think is a very good thing, but being unfunded makes it a challenge. I definitely have worked in other sectors where our budget would balloon yearly because of the demands that were being made by our citizens who wanted to use our services. So it's a challenge for sure.
Right. Anyone else? Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Additional comments from, no, I'm sorry, I skipped right past the city manager part. City manager, city attorney reports. Just on the joint meeting.
Just have one thing, Mayor, some calendaring. We're trying to set up our meetings with the Confederate Tribes of the Siletz Indians and with the County Board of Commissioners. The tribe would like to meet on August 22nd. And
will that be at their facility again?
I don't know that I know that. Where will that be located, Kathy? That will be here this time.
That's with the tribe?
It is,
The August 22nd?
Monday.
That would be a Monday.
You have a time on that, Mr. Chandler?
I think we've got it down for 6 p.m.
Appreciate the long lead on that very much.
And then the other one is we have actually 3 dates with the County Board of Commissioners for you to select. June 29th, July 6th, or July 13th.
One more time, please.
June 29th, July 6th, or July 13th.
Oh, where is my schedule keeper?
Why are you doing that on Wednesday?
That is the time that the Board of Commissioners has given to us.
They meet on Wednesdays.
I thought they used to meet on Tuesday.
The county always meets on Wednesday
On
morning.
Wednesday?
And the information I have is that we would begin this at 6 p.m. and continue no later than 7 p.m.
June 29th?
29th, July 6th, or July 13th.
I'd rather do the 29th. We need to pick a date today?
Yeah, so they can get it on their schedule.
I would vote for the 29th.
I'd suggest that we wait for the mayor to return with his calendar.
I've probably said this before, but traditionally in Lincoln City for years, it was always to leave your calendar free on Wednesday night because that was church night. Most churches have choir practice that night and they have all the other meetings, and it does conflict with that.
Wednesday nights?
Pardon?
Are you saying Wednesday nights?
Yeah.
Exactly. I run into that too. I'm good the 29th or the 13th.
And you wanted the 29th, Wes?
Yeah,
Anybody object, 29th?
Don't have an objection.
Okay. Early, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
You know, right, Mr. Mayor, Ron or Kathy, does it have to be in the evening? County government meets at 9:30 in the morning, so is there any reason why we couldn't have it to?
I believe they have the meeting with us, and then they immediately have their meeting here in our chambers after that.
Yeah,
Possibly their budget committee meeting.
But what they've written to us is the joint work session in your council chambers would begin at 6 p.m. and continue to no later than 7 p.m. with everyone from your council who could attend. We would then hold a regular weekly Board of Commissioners meeting immediately following the joint session and would include information and discussion items that might be of particular interest to citizens in your area.
Yeah, that's their standard spiel. They meet at 9:30 in the morning first on a regular basis, and I think the 6 is probably accommodating, us, or an attempt to accommodate us and the citizens at the north end, which is appreciated. For the 6 years I've been attending these, other than city council, there hasn't been citizen. So, I guess to try to accommodate.
If we can ask if they can hold it earlier.
You bet.
You can ask. I'm in favor of that, yeah.
I'd prefer to move it just to 5 o'clock
Yeah,
instead
I mean,
of 6.
yeah.
If we could do that.
Yeah, 5 o'clock is cool.
Let them know there's church things on Wednesday night, and
Well, I do. I have
Yeah.
church activities on Wednesday.
Okay, shall we shoot for 5 then?
Works for me.
We will pass that on.
Well,
Okay.
tentatively 5, and I'll check to make sure that
Three
that
of
time
them,
is okay.
bigger than
Well, not
Well, not bigger, that's true. We'll all right. Anything else there, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Mr. Appicello, anything?
Two things, actually. One, I may need to be out of state to care for a family member. This is the typical broken hip movement from independent living to assisted living kind of difficulty.
Sorry.
So that depends on some evaluations to be done over the next week to 10 days. So I will keep you informed. If, in fact, I have to be gone during a council scheduled meeting, I'll find coverage for that meeting. Secondly, I sent you an evaluation form that was used when I was evaluated in June of 2014. My anniversary date was Friday. Under my contract, you're supposed to evaluate me around my anniversary date. So I've sent you the form that I had. Apparently, last week, a different form was sent to you. Normally, I do a self-evaluation. I send you that. You use that and then review it and as you do your own evaluations, and then you all meet and come up with an evaluation. If you want to change that process, then I would suggest that we schedule a time to talk about changing that process. I know that you've had meetings with where you discussed the city manager's evaluation, but you haven't had that, this council has not had that discussion with regard to my evaluation process. So if you, I was going to go ahead and just do my self-evaluation since the manager and HR director pretty much reminded me that it was due with this email that they sent out. And if in fact you want to change the process, you should set a time to talk about it. And I'm not sure if I'll be at your next meeting, so I can't be certain that that would be a good time to do it.
And just so I'm clear, you're on a yearly eval?
Yeah, my contract pretty much refers to I'll be evaluated and then annually thereafter.
Okay, so we could continue with what we've got and then talk about for the next?
Yeah.
How are we doing on time? Are we past your time to evaluate?
Again, my anniversary date was Friday of last week. The city manager's anniversary date was last month.
We're a month late on you?
Well, yeah, it's about a month late for me, for my annual.
What's stopping us for, I mean, the evaluations don't take a lot of time.
It's just a matter of you scheduling meetings to take care of it. That's it.
Mayor?
Yeah, please.
I prefer the process that we've used in the past. I would just assume we
City attorney.
With the city attorney, city manager, both. I prefer that process. I don't.
But we changed it.
No, I believe what he's referring to is the self-evaluation.
Right, right. But didn't we change that on your behalf, on your part?
I did not do a self-evaluation last year.
Right, okay.
Or 6 months ago.
I'm sure I'm clear. So I guess that's what I'm saying is I haven't even seen it really to look at it, but I don't have a problem with continuing with what we have now with what was agreed. And then if we want to sit and talk about any changes, maybe do that at a later time so we can just proceed. Is that
Agreed.
simple? Okay, good. Anything else, sir? Wow, we are going to roll out of here before 8 o'clock. Maybe. Oh, no. Additional comments from citizens present on non-agenda items? Seeing none. Announcements or comments by City Council. Mr. Sprague.
I want to indicate that we get a weekly report from the city manager who gets reports from the different department heads each week. And this week, the report from the police department I thought is worth talking about. This is a list of the things that they actually had in the way of incidences. They had 654 incidents in January. And people have complained about, well, our police force is too big and that sort of thing. And I just want to show you what they really have done. They had 19 motor vehicle accidents with 1 fatality, 4 injury, and 11 of those were non-injury. I know that doesn't add up, but there's a reason for that. There was a hit and run. There were 4 of those. We had personal crimes with total persons arrested. They had total 20 persons, and then there were 17 of those were arrested. Aggravated assault was 44. Other assaults, 64. Offense against family, 77. Property crimes, 40 persons. There were 7 of those arrested. 9 burglaries residential, and there were 31 total. Larcenies, 174. Vandalism, 82. Other crimes, 63 persons, 47 of those were arrested. Warrant arrests were 17, disorderly conduct 6, trespass 2, DUI 6, and drugs and narcotics 8. That's at a time during the year when we're at the slowest period in January. Think what happens when we have 35,000 people here instead of the 8,000 or 9,000 we have right now. So I want to commend the police department for what they're doing.
Absolutely. Next.
Also referring to the weekly report from Mr. Chandler, Trout Mountain Forestry has planted, I believe it has planted, 2,400 tree seedlings at the Spyglass Ridge thinning project. If you haven't gone up to look at that project, it's very well done, very nicely done, and now we've got potentially 2,400 new trees up there. Thank you, Trout Mountain. I'd also like to thank the Community Services Consortium and the North Lincoln County Youth Crew for 648 volunteer hours during the month of December. Thank you again. And we were handed this evening an open house announcement at the Port of Tillamook Bay. I believe the organization is called Helping Hands, and it's an emergency relief center where one can meet the staff, the board, and the volunteers involved and hear an overview of the program and learn how to help the community. So anybody interested in that, it's Saturday, February 27th, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Also, unless there's an objection, Mr. Chandler, I'd like to refer back to the February 8th memo from the city attorney regarding the VRD-related amendments. And the last time I brought this up, the rest of the council really didn't, and myself didn't have time to consider it, and I'm wondering if in the past 2 weeks, council has had time to look this over. It's the February 8th vacation rental dwelling VRD-related amendments. One is to bring forward an amendment to the VRD license ordinance, and two was to bring forward a study on the housing inventory, if everybody recalls.
I've given some thought to it, and I have some ideas.
Well, are you done, Chester? You want?
Well, I'm looking for feedback.
Okay, then I guess.
Mr. Mayor? I was in.
Susan got
Oh,
first.
okay.
Okay. I would like to hold off on the health and safety issues until we get the citizen input, and I do want them to come to council when the zoning amendments go to the planning department, so that we can see those first, because they're on different tracks. I'm wondering about the housing inventory and how current ours is, and if we need to, maybe Deborah can.
It's currently being conducted by the planning department under Richard Townsend's direction.
So the update to the housing inventory is in progress?
We got a grant to study.
I'm sorry, Deborah, you're going to have to let folks know who you are.
I'm Deborah Nicholson.
Thank you.
Senior planner. We got a grant to study the buildable lands and the housing needs analysis, as well as economic opportunities. And that study, we haven't kicked it off yet, so it should be coming shortly.
But that does include an inventory, a housing inventory.
Housing needs.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chandler, could I suggest that we put this on the agenda for our next meeting so we could discuss it and/or move on it?
Be up to the council if you would like to.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I was under the impression that staff was going to put together a draft ordinance, and we were going to take it from there and either tear it apart or agree with it.
That
Am
was
I
my
wrong?
understanding.
That's correct.
Right. And that's a big concern I had with this coming out. One, that it's half public, half confidential. I don't think you had a chance to look it over. And it's one of these cooperation things that concerned me, that one hand didn't know what the other was doing, and it was just laid in our lap at a meeting. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm good with what we've just said, that we're waiting for ordinances, draft ordinances, and then we're going to tear them apart, and then this information will be brought forward to us at that point. So with that, were you making a motion, or?
I don't hear support for my suggestion, so I'm going to let it ride.
All right.
What-
Thank you, Chester.
What was the suggestion?
What was your suggestion?
Oh, that's your
I spent a minute in the bathroom. I thought I could make it to 8, but no farther.
My suggestion was that we put these issues on the next agenda so we can discuss them and either move on them or not.
I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to see what the draft ordinance is going to look like, and then we can talk about incorporating or unincorporating whatever we need to do.
I agree. I think we're going to get to the same point one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just boogering up, and that's the wrong word to use. Can we say boogering? I just did. Clogging up the works.
Yes.
So, okay, so we're go ahead and move forward then from that? Yeah? Okay, great. Anything else? No. No, no, yes, no? Please, Wes.
First of all, I want to tell you it feels good to be back.
See you again.
Tomorrow I get to go back to work too, which will be a first for a month. But I wanted to take a moment because I ended up being stupid and got myself quite ill. And once again, the surgeons and staff at Samaritan North Lincoln Hospital took more than adequate care of me. They did everything they could to keep me functioning properly, including some really nasty pills I'm still taking. Ugh. But anyway, I just want to commend all of the nursing staff and doctors at Samaritan North Lincoln Hospital, and anything that I think that we can do to help that facility build a bigger and better facility, I would be all for it, because it is very needed in this community. I've had to use it twice in an emergency now in the last 5 months, and trust me, if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be here. So once again, I do want to thank them and commend them. Thanks for all the cards. I got some lovely flowers today, and some visits from and calls from various people, and I do appreciate all of that. And thank you very much. I'm getting stronger every day.
Great.
Did you have anything?
This is for you, Mr. City Manager. Could you take just a moment of your time and tell the story of the old growth tree?
So ODOT has been working out on the East Devils Lake Road interchange, and part of that is a lot of tree clearing that's taking place. There is a 200-year-old tree that was just outside of the path, but was slated to be cut down. Some very concerned citizens approached ODOT, approached the court system. We got a call saying, can you find out what's going on? On Friday, as I understand it, there was a hearing on that, and we learned today that that tree is not coming down, that it will be preserved. So
Let's hear it for the old tree.
Okay, well, on that note.
Mayor, I had a few things. Okay.
Use your time.
I was looking at the list of boards and committees. The Building Board of Appeals has no members. I'm wondering what the purpose is and why it's inactive. And these answers can come back at a later date. The Budget Committee only has 2 people on it right now. We need to appoint 5. Budget hearings are coming up. Public Art, we have 1 person on it. There's 4 vacancies. As of tonight, we have 4 people on the VCC, the Visitor and Convention Committee, but there's still 3 vacancies. It has a quorum, but barely. We have a committee called the Transit Room Tax Committee. Wondering if I can get a purpose for that committee. We have 1 person on there, 4 vacancies. I'm also wondering when the last transit room tax audit was done. That used to be done on a fairly regular basis. And we used to have a citizen involvement committee, and I'm wondering what the status of that is. It's no longer on the list.
Well, I was going to do a nice segue into this, but you blew it. Now I got to be clunky about it. ODOT is going to be having an open house, speaking of old growth or old trees, Monday, February 29th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Faith Baptist Church, 5750 North Highway 101 to come talk with us about what you can expect this summer during construction and what the intersection will look like when it's completed. That's East Devils Lake Road intersection with 101. If you haven't noticed that something's going on there, well, there's something going on there, and you may want to attend this meeting. Yeah, this is going to be a very important meeting for a lot of folks to attend. There'll be good information and can maybe ease some concerns. ODOT has been terrific. At least my experience with them this last year has been good about their free flow of information and being very forthright in things. After that, we have tomorrow's...
Your Honor,
yes,
that was the 29th?
Oh, I'm sorry, I closed it. That is the February 29th, 6:30 to 8.
6:30, thank you.
Monday, at Faith Baptist Church.
I believe we have a workshop that night.
That goes from 3 until 5.
Oh, good.
Okay. Then anyway, we have the State of the City address tomorrow at Lincoln City Cultural Center, 11:45, catered by Mose. So come watch me babble my way through that and meet some good people. We heard about the Big Wave Classic, Classic History of Special at, that's interesting syntax. Anyway, there'll be a movie at the Cultural Center on the 24th at 7 p.m. Come watch how it all started. That would be the Big Wave Classic you might want to see. We have one more thing. Chester mentioned the thing at Tillamook. Yeah, 3 p.m. we have the Village's Master Plan, right? Monday the 29th. I would encourage folks, I know I've lassoed Kip into this. I'm taking an advanced social media class at Oregon Community College right now. We've had our first class, there's a couple more, and I'm sure they'd be more than willing to have you in there. If you're in business in Lincoln City, you're going to want to know what social media is about, and we have a great instructor here in Misty Lambrecht. That'll be followed by the best mobile app for your business class. So take advantage of these courses while they're here with a great instructor. And then I believe, gosh, we're not going to meet again until when? The 14th? No, in March.
Your next regularly scheduled meeting is the 14th.
Yeah. So we'll be cooking for CR for Celebrate Recovery on the 8th on Tuesday. Representative Schrader will be here on the 10th to have a meeting with me and I guess some other folks. And I'll definitely let folks know about that. And then we have the North Lincoln Fire Awards Banquet. I think it's at 2 o'clock on Saturday the 12th. And then there's also an Eagle Scout induction ceremony. Is that the right word I'm using? Induction ceremony? For the Eagle Scouts, 7 p.m. at the Cultural Center. And with that, if there's nothing else, God bless you all. May God bless Lincoln City. We are adjourned.
That ODOT meeting.
I've got